Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast live stream. It is Tuesday, July 2nd. I am on vacation, but don't worry. Beach time for the day is over. Got a shower and have time with you before we go out tonight and hang out a little bit as a family. But hey, so much is happening right now in the world and in the world's most volatile and chaotic region, the Middle East, that I absolutely wanted to come to you, even during vacation, with at least a few updates this week. Now, I'll be back in DFW over the weekend, but Monday through Friday, out of town here, and just enjoying time with the family, enjoying some time on the beach, but still monitoring everything very closely. In this line of work, you can never quite completely break away from it, but nevertheless, having a nice time with the family, getting some R&R, which I badly needed for sure, but wanted to make that time again to come to you. So let's dig into it. We've got some things to talk about, folks. Number one, and this is largely, surprise, surprise, shockingly, been ignored by the mainstream media over the past few days. A top Iranian general said, look, April 13th, that infamous Iranian direct attack, the first of its kind against Israel, over 300 projectiles launched from Iranian soil at Israel. He said April 13th is only the beginning. We can't wait to carry out attack number two. There's more coming. And folks, I said that, and I've talked to Israeli officials about it, Israeli analysts, since that April 13th attack. I said, do you think this was just a one-off by Iran? Over 300 projectiles launched. Of course, 99% of those projectiles, rockets, missiles, drones, were shot down by Israeli in tandem with the US, with the UK, and yes, even Saudi Arabia and Jordan helped shoot down those incoming Iranian projectiles. But I said, look, do you think this was a one-off? And to a man, everyone I've interviewed in Israel has said, no, we don't think so. If anything, this likely emboldened Iran. The Iranian regime says, we got away with it. Israel did respond, but the response was not what a lot of us expected. It was very measured, to say the least. They struck a site in Natanz, which is home to a major Iranian nuclear facility. It was more a message sent by Israel, more a case of, do you see what we can do to you? If we want to do it, we know where everything is and we can hit you under your noses. There's nothing you can do about it, Iran. It was more that kind of message rather than a tangible, massive retaliatory strike against the Iranian regime. Nevertheless, in any case, I think Iran came out of April 13th and said, wow, we're still fully intact. Israel didn't unleash hell on Iran. We got away with it. We launched an unprecedented attack, and we essentially got away with it. We haven't really paid a price for that attack. And a major reason for that is that the Biden administration, remember them? Tying Israel's hands and imploring Israel repeatedly in public and behind closed doors to not react to that Iranian attack on April 13th. And look, twisting Israel's arm with Iran, with the Iranian response to April 13th, twisting Israel's arm behind its back when it comes to Hezbollah in the north, and of course in Gaza in particular with the Rafah offensive. So Joe Biden's, shall we say, lack of coherence at the debate last Thursday night, and that's being kind, has also translated in foreign policy. I would say, actually, when it comes to Israel, very coherent in that their rationale in D.C. right now seems to be, in this White House, I should say, seems to be, again, tie Israel's arm behind its back and don't let Israel do what it needs to do. Although last time I checked, Israel is a sovereign nation that can make its own decisions for its own defense, but I digress. But we're going to talk about these latest threats from this top Iranian general. And folks, again, they've been ignored. I think people should take them very seriously. That's number one. Number two, speaking of the Biden administration, Antony Blinken, of all people, the U.S. Secretary of State, yesterday said, and I quote, Israel has effectively lost sovereignty. I said Israel's a sovereign nation a minute ago. Israel has essentially lost sovereign control over the north, or over the northern region of Israel along the Lebanon border. Now, why would he say that? I don't know, because at least 60,000 Israelis are evacuated from the north, folks. The north right now is a virtual ghost town, thanks to this near daily Hezbollah barrage. It started October 8th, and it has continued practically every single day for the past 8.5 months. And it's interesting that Blinken said this. He's acknowledging the reality on the ground, and he's acknowledging the problem. But at the same time, he and the Biden administration are telling Israel, begging Israel, don't do anything about the problem. Don't strike Hezbollah. Okay, Tony. Well, if Israel doesn't do that, then it will never, as you said, look, they've lost sovereignty over the north. They'll never regain sovereignty over the north unless they deal with Hezbollah decisively. It's a war no one wants to see, folks, but it's unavoidable because Hezbollah isn't going to just magically back up from its perch on Israel's northern border and voluntarily, out of the kindness of their hearts, move their forces back some 20 miles from the Israel-Lebanon border. It ain't going to happen without a healthy shove from the Israel Defense Forces. Everyone knows this. If they were going to follow UN mandates and UN directives and UN ceasefires, well, in the wake of the last go-round between Israel and Hezbollah, 18 years ago, July 2006, hard to believe, they would have stayed put. Hezbollah would have gone beyond the magic dividing line, right? The Litani River, about 19 miles north of the Israel-Lebanon border. Everyone wants to see Hezbollah beyond the Litani River. Well, if UN declarations would have accomplished that, we wouldn't be where we are right now. UN Resolution 1701, I believe, basically saying, look, Hezbollah has to disarm. So much for that. Since 2006, they have expanded their arsenal exponentially, a massive, massive arsenal, at least, key term there, folks, 150,000 rockets and missiles pointed at every inch of the world's one and only Jewish state. And the capability to perhaps invade on the ground, not a mass ground invasion, but certainly an October 7th style incursion, storming over the border, both over the border and perhaps underground in tunnels. Yes, Hezbollah also has a tunnel network in the north. How do I know? Well, I've been in one. And you've seen that here in the Watchman in previous years. A while back, I was with the Israel Defense Forces, and I traveled deep into a Hezbollah tunnel that stretched some 200 feet beneath the ground. And it was like traveling into the bowels of hell. And it had electrical work, lighting. This wasn't some hole that your dog dug in the backyard. Nor are obviously the Hamas tunnels. You've seen them exposed over the past 8 months, right, since October 7th. An elaborate network, probably the largest underground tunnel system. I read yesterday, the Hamas tunnel network beneath Gaza may very well be larger than the London Metro, the Paris metro systems in the United States. That's how massive and sprawling this city beneath the city is throughout, city beneath a strip, I should say, throughout Gaza truly is. How demonic and diabolical can you be? Where all those billions of dollars in international aid that's flowed from the US, from Europe, from around the world, that was supposed to flow to the Palestinian people, was snatched by Hamas. And they used all of that money to build this elaborate underground tunnel network whose sole purpose was to murder, maim, and destroy. And oh, by the way, on rockets too. That's where the rest of those funds went. How just insanely, absolutely diabolical, just pure demonic evil. Hamas's whole rationale for existence is to destroy a people, not just a nation state, not just the nation state of Israel. They want to slaughter every Jew from Tel Aviv to Texas to Toronto. And that's the truth. This is just walking, living, breathing evil in human form. It's a demonic death cult. Again, they exist to destroy. That's it. If Hamas laid down its weapons tomorrow and disarmed and said, we're going to become a part of the political process, then they wouldn't be Hamas. Folks, read their founding charter from 1987. Key point there, by the way, the self-declared Palestinian branch of the, drumroll please, Muslim Brotherhood. Hamas is the Muslim Brotherhood. the granddaddy of them all, the Muslim Brotherhood, when it comes to modern day Islamic terror and jihad. Folks, every jihadi leader of note that you can think of, from bin Laden to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Ayman al-Zawahiri, Omar al-Baghdadi, the former leader of ISIS. On the Sunni side, every jihadi leader you can think of. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the 9/11 mastermind. Before they joined Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Hamas, they were members of the Muslim Brotherhood. It was the gateway drug to violent jihad. Was and is the gateway drug to violent jihad. So that's who Hamas is. But we want to break down a little bit the state of play there in Gaza, continue talk of a ceasefire. We wanted to mention the latest with Hezbollah and Blinken's comments, and has Israel really lost sovereignty over the north? And also, of course, we're going to discuss these threats from this Iranian leader, Iranian general, to strike Israel again directly. And we've got a few more things to hit on too while we're here. Again, if you're just joining us, I'm joining you from vacation. Don't worry, it's not a working vacation. I'm actually taking time and relaxing a bit, some R&R with the family, which is great. But the nature of this business and what I do, and it's not a business. For me, it's a cause. It's a holy cause and a righteous cause, something I'm called to do, and you're called to be here with me as watchmen and women on the wall for such a time as this. Never, ever, have I looked at it like, oh, it's my job. No, no, no. It's a privilege and an honor and a blessing to do what I do. My mom used to say, hey, my dad worked in a factory, folks. He'd come home drenched every day, electrician, no air conditioning in that factory, growing up in Philly. And my mom would say, you could be breaking rocks all day. God has really blessed you and given you a platform to do his work for such a time as this. Again, so two things here before we get into this Iranian general, and very important comments, folks, that have been largely ignored by the mainstream media. Number one, if you have not subscribed, hey, we'd love to have you here with us every day so you don't miss a day, don't miss a video, even 4th of July week, on vacation, all that good stuff. But we're still coming to you. Weekends as well at times, because the Middle East never sleeps. And what happens over there matters to you no matter where you live around the world. So be sure to subscribe, click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. That's number one. Number two, we have a second YouTube channel. You might say, are you nuts? You already got one. We've got nearly 1 million subscribers by the grace of God on this channel. But yeah, we've started another channel, folks. My nightly show, Stakelbeck Tonight, on TBN, the world's largest Christian television network, every Monday through Friday, every night, nightly show, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time with a re-air at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We now have a Stakelbeck Tonight YouTube channel. It's at Stakelbeck Tonight. That's at Stakelbeck Tonight. So while you're at it, give us a subscribe over there as well. It's content you're not seeing here on the Watchman channel, and it's segments from our nightly show on TBN. If you love what we're doing here, you're going to love what we've got on Stakelbeck Tonight. We've interviewed President Trump. We've interviewed Israeli leaders. We've interviewed a bunch of people so far on the nightly show on TBN. You can see it all on Stakelbeck Tonight YouTube channel, at Stakelbeck Tonight. Also, Bible prophecy there. Hey, we just did, here's one for you, just did a full show on the Nephilim. You might say, the Nephil what? But our biblical buffs and scholars who are watching right now know exactly what the Nephilim are. And we dug deep there, and it's getting a lot of traction on our Stakelbeck Tonight channel. So check that out. Last thing, hey, a lot of people have been asking me since October 7th, certainly, how can I help Israel? What can I do? And our sponsor today for today's live stream, our good friends at Magen David Adom. Folks, if you want to bless Israel, fulfill that biblical mandate, and truly help the people of Israel right now, Magen David Adom, I cannot think of a better organization to partner with. Here's some numbers. Number one, this is Israel's emergency medical system. Numbers for you. 35,000 paramedics, EMTs, and first responders. They answer every emergency medical call in Israel. Every single one, Magen David Adom. Terror attacks after October 7th in the north, Hezbollah launching rockets, Magen David Adom is first on the scene, folks, doing God's work. They answer every emergency medical call, and they dispatch every ambulance in Israel. Every ambulance in Israel, it comes from Magen David Adom. They maintain Israel's blood supply. And and in the wake of all these attacks and wars and rumors of war, what's happening in the north, what's soon to come, which we'll talk about then, the Gaza aftermath. It's a mostly volunteer force. Folks, some 30 paramedics and EMTs have died since October 7th in the line of duty. This is Magen David Adom. And again, it's a mostly volunteer force. They rely on donors to help them keep it going. So they can, again, this is it. These are Israel's emergency first responders on the ground. Magen David Adom. I'm in Israel all the time, as you know. Everywhere I go, I see Magen David Adom ambulances rushing to the scene someplace. So folks, it is savelivesisrael.org. You see the information there on your screen. Savelivesisrael.org. Savelivesisrael.org. I strongly encourage you to support Magen David Adom. You're fulfilling, again, people are asking me, well, I can't get to Israel. How can I help? I feel helpless. I feel desperate. I want to help the Jewish people. I want to fulfill that biblical mandate laid out in Genesis 12:3 to bless the people of Israel. Magen David Adom. Savelivesisrael.org. I am proud and honored to partner with Magen David Adom, and we're honored that they're sponsoring this live stream today on July 2nd. God bless them. Check them out. Okay. Iranian general, reading this right from the Times of Israel, just glancing down at my phone. Iranian general says itching to carry out another direct missile attack on Israel. The Revolutionary Guards, remember, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, folks, that is the elite vanguard of the Iranian regime. I compare them to the Nazi SS. Qasem Soleimani, was an IRGC leader, and the list goes on. They answered directly to the supreme leader, and that's it. The Revolutionary Guard's Aerospace chief, Amir Ali Hajizadeh, we've heard that name before, says he doesn't know how many rockets would be used in the next Iranian missile attack, rocket attack on Israel, but he is hopeful for an opportunity to follow up the April barrage of hundreds of rockets. Here's more. A senior Iranian military commander said that the country is waiting for a chance to launch another direct attack on Israel as a follow-up to a barrage of hundreds of missiles and drones it fired in April. And Iranian media reported this today, but the mainstream media here in the West hasn't picked it up. Surprise, surprise. Question before I go on here for all of our viewers. We got a very active chat right now. Do you believe, and we asked this last week, I'll ask it again. It takes on even more pertinence, I believe, with these comments by this Iranian general. Do you believe if and when, I'd say when Israel goes to war with Hezbollah, do you believe Iran will strike Israel directly in response, defending its most lethal proxy, the crown jewel of its ring of fire, Hezbollah? I said it last week, I'll say it again today. In Iran's view, Hezbollah is too big to fail. So if Israel's on the verge of crushing Hezbollah, hey, they've already crushed Hamas and Islamic Jihad largely in Gaza. That's a ring of fire that you can X out. It's done. The terror threat. Before Iran could lean on Gaza, always was a thorn in Israel's side. Iran could always count on Hamas and Islamic Jihad to flare things up and harass Israel and bother Israel more than bother. That's gone now, which makes Hezbollah even more invaluable to the Iranian regime. Hezbollah is Iran's insurance policy for, if not when, Israel strikes Iran's nuclear facilities. They're going to unleash Hezbollah in response. I say all that to say, is that the moment? Hajizadeh is talking about, look, we can't wait to strike Israel directly again. Okay, is the moment you do that when Israel and Hezbollah go toe-to-toe? Does Iran throw its hat in the ring directly? We know that Iranian-backed Iraqi Shia militias, they're gonna. We know the Houthis in Yemen, the Iranian-backed Houthis, they're going to do it as well. Syria, regimes there, terror groups there, sponsored back by Iran. That ring of fire will ignite, and the wild card is the Assad regime in Syria. Will they directly intervene? because they're also a part of that ring of fire, folks. And does that precipitate some prophetic events? Are there prophetic repercussions? I'm talking in particular, when I'm talking Syria, about the book of Isaiah, chapter 17, verse 1, which talks about a day when Damascus, the capital of Syria, will become a, quote, ruinous heap. According to the Bible, it will cease to be a city. Damascus will cease to be a city, one of the world's oldest inhabited cities. Even the Mongols didn't completely raze Damascus to the ground, but the Bible says a day is coming when Damascus will cease to be a city. Interesting. What could possibly precipitate that? What could cause that? Could a coming great northern war, when Israel is going toe-to-toe with Hezbollah, Iran, in Lebanon, and in Syria? Could we see dominoes and chess pieces and things spiral out of control? I think so. In today's Middle East and today's world writ large, but in the Middle East today, I would say expect the unexpected. Good rule of thumb for you. Okay, more on Hajizadeh. And answer that question if you can. Does Iran intervene directly if Israel and Hezbollah go to war, when they go to war? Amir Ali Hajizadeh made the remarks in Tehran, and he said, we are hopeful of the arrival for the opportunity to conduct Operation True Promise 2. Now, that first barrage back in April, on April 13th, they called it Operation True Promise. This would be, he said, Operation True Promise 2. He said, it's going to come. We don't know how many missiles will be used in the second attack, but we're going to do it. And he boasted that, yes, our weapons we are supplying in Palestine, as he called it, although no entity called Palestine exists. Lebanon and elsewhere, we are helping and supplying them. He's telling the world. But is the Iranian regime suffering any consequences for this? No. He's telling the world. They've telegraphed it. They've been very open about it. Yeah, we're arming our proxies. It's us. We're arming them, supplying them, training them. We're doing it. And the UN shrugs its shoulders. Consequences? Nah. Meanwhile, though, the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice, are targeting Israeli leaders. And the UN has passed more resolutions against Israel than any other nation. Than the former Soviet Union, Communist China, Communist Cuba, Syria, Iran, North Korea, the list goes on. No, Israel has been subject to more UN resolutions than any tyranny you can name over the past 80 years or so. You know, it's a world where good is called evil and evil is called good, as the prophet Isaiah so accurately described. That's the world in 2024. Good is called evil, evil is called good. It's a world turned upside down, but it's a world we're living in right now. So as believers, as followers of Jesus, if you are like me, this is not a time to be discouraged and the sky is falling and hide under your chair as you listen to this. Number one, you need to know. I think you'd rather know than not know, for your sake, for your family's sake. And number two, this is an opportunity, I believe a golden opportunity for followers of Jesus, for the body of Christ, to step up and shine light in the darkness. Folks, if we don't do it, no one else is going to do it. If the body of Christ, if Christians moved by the Holy Spirit don't step up and fulfill our biblical mandate to be salt and light in these dark times, to set an example, to walk the walk of faith for the entire world to see, to be ambassadors for Christ, if we don't do it, no one else is going to do it. So to me, I take living in these times as a challenge. It's a privilege too. I know a lot of us could say, oh my gosh, I wish I lived in another time. This is horrible. And these are perilous times, no doubt, but these are also Bible times. And if you're watching right now, if you're alive right now, you're part of a great story that's being written. I mean, you're seeing prophetic events unfold before your very eyes that your ancestors only read about and thought about and said, wow, I wonder what that would look like. Israel reborn, a nation reborn in a day? 1948. It happened May 14th, 1948. So you're living in prophetic times. By the way, Hajizadeh, this Iranian Air Force commander, also boasted of Iranian attacks on U.S. interest in the Middle East, in particular Iraq and Syria. It's pretty amazing to me. Again, they're owning it. They're not trying to hide it. They're saying, yeah, we're arming our proxies throughout the region. And oh, yeah, we attack U.S. troops. We sponsor attacks on U.S. troops. They're not hiding it. And again, there's no consequences. None. And there really haven't been too many since 1979 when this wicked regime took power in Iran. There really haven't been very many consequences. You might say, what are you talking about? Look, there were sanctions, and the sanctions definitely did some harm to Iran's economy, and Soleimani was killed under President Trump. That was huge, obviously. And Israel certainly has carried out covert attacks against Iran, against nuclear facilities, against ballistic missile factories, against Iranian nuclear scientists. Certainly, there have been some consequences on that end. But there hasn't been, even in the wake of April 13th, the Israeli response to that unprecedented Iranian barrage. There hasn't been the kind of massive consequence. And someone writes, Jimmy the Jew from Philly, best YouTube name. We sank their Navy. Yes, we did. I believe in 1988, under Ronald Reagan, either 87 or 88, the U.S. did sink the Iranian Navy, but it wasn't the kind of message, clearly, that deterred the Iranian regime and sent them into the corner and said, look, when Reagan struck Gaddafi in 86, I brought this up a lot with Libya, Gaddafi was not heard from after that for a long, long time. The Iranian regime basically got back on the horse and started up again shortly after their navy was sunk. And we don't hear much about that, by the way, that the Iranian navy was sank. There was a consequence there. In one day, by the way, in a few hours, it all happened. That was in the late 80s, 87 or 88, under President Reagan. But a great man. But that kind of strong message has been out the window for a long, long time, until President Trump. When President Trump took out Soleimani, number one. Number two, pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal. Number three, designated the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps as a terror organization. Number four, recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. Number five, moved the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem and recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Number six, cut funding to the Palestinian Authority of Mahmoud Abbas. And number seven, cut funding to UNRWA, the UN Reliefs and Works Agency, which is a terror hotbed. All of that happened under President Trump. Oh, yeah. And the Abraham Accords also happened, where Sunni Arab Muslim nations were lining up to make peace with Israel. Man, that was just 4 years ago. We've come a long way from that. But what I'm saying is this: forceful actions like we saw under Trump in the Middle East, it matters. Action matters, of course, and he was seen as a man of action by Iran's leaders, not to mention China, Russia, North Korea. And you can like President Trump or dislike him. I know there's opinions all over the place. Everyone has an opinion on Donald Trump. I know that. But I think it's irrefutable. Crushed ISIS, crushed the caliphate. I think it's irrefutable that President Trump's policies in the Middle East worked and then some. And I think it's irrefutable that America's policies in the Middle East today ain't working. We've got a very dangerous world. And that's why it was so disturbing to me. And when I've talked about Biden's mental state and senility and everything, I've never been one to laugh and point fingers. Look at him. He's senile. He's got dementia. You've heard my tone, folks. I've been very sober about this because it's sobering to watch, knowing we live in a very dangerous world. There's a gathering storm. We've talked about it many times here in the channel. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. The four charter members of what I call the Gathering Storm Coalition. Turkey, an aspiring member for sure, has 1 foot in NATO and 1 foot in the Gathering Storm Coalition in the East. Junior partners, Venezuela, Cuba, Belarus. the Assad regime in Syria, and Iran's ring of fire, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, etc. Those are the stakes. And on the other end, you have a weakened West. You have Joe Biden. No, you saw the debate last Thursday. I don't have to elaborate any further. We're in big trouble there. You've got Britain on July 4th, no less, ready to elect a left-wing government. Encouragingly, though, folks, they've been following what's been going on in France, in Italy, in Germany, in Belgium, in the Netherlands. We've got a turn in Western Europe in the wake of the European parliamentary elections earlier this month, or last month, I should say, in June, a turn towards the right, where people are saying, hey, wait a minute, our left-wing and socialist and globalist governments have let in millions of Muslim immigrants who don't seem to want to assimilate. And we have a big problem here. So maybe we should elect people who don't believe in that, who want to, I don't know, secure Europe's borders and curtail waves of immigration from the Middle East and North Africa, from the Muslim world. It might be good to, I don't know, slow down on that. And we see the same response here in the United States to the southern border. And folks, look, I was in Eagle Pass. Eagle Pass has been one of the epicenters of the border crisis here in the United States. And I drove around with a Border Patrol agent, law enforcement, spent time with folks down there. And they said, look, we've found people coming in from dozens upon dozens of nations. I mean, from Somalia, Yemen, China, Iran, Pakistan, you name it, Iraq, Egypt, again, Yemen, you name it. That's what we've been countering here in Eagle Pass. Look, I reported here a few weeks ago that 8 men connected to ISIS were arrested after they were allowed to enter the country illegally. They were caught, then they were released. It's called catch and release. And then authorities said, uh-oh, these guys were bad and we let them go. LA, New York, and Philly, they scooped them up. It's a disaster waiting to happen. Again, we live in a dangerous world. And we have a leader, if he can use that term right now, in the White House, who's not up to the task. So between now and November, it's July, the election in November, it's a dangerous time. Should I say between now and January, the inauguration, assuming Donald Trump wins, he's elected president again. Biden's in office till January 20th, 21st, till the inauguration. Folks, a lot can happen over the next 6 months or so. It's a dangerous time. If you're China, Iran, North Korea, Russia, etc., and you say, wow, the sheriff is back in town come January, would you not use this brief 6-month window and take advantage and try to accomplish what you want to do now? I've been very, very nervous about China and Taiwan under Biden's watch. China perhaps was thinking 2027 we'll move on Taiwan. Is China now saying, let's speed up the timetable while Biden's in office? Let's do it now. He doesn't even know he doesn't know what's going on. Let's do it now. Let's move. Dangerous, dangerous time. Stay in prayer on this, folks. And I mentioned Hezbollah and the comments by Blinken that Israel has lost sovereignty over the north. Number one, that's not true. Israel, look, you might say, what are you talking about? 60,000 people, at least, might be close to 80,000 from what people tell me, have evacuated northern Israel, and they're spread out, and they don't know when they're going home. I would say Israel lost sovereignty over that area if Hezbollah had crossed the border and occupied northern Israel. Then, yeah, you've lost sovereignty. But look, it's a ghost town, no doubt. And no one can live there right now. unless they're forced to, because rockets, missiles, and drones are falling every day. Just yesterday, we had an attack by drone. 18 Israeli soldiers were wounded. It's a tipping point, folks, and it's a collision course. And July has been circled on the calendar for many as a month where this may all come to a head in Lebanon. One date to circle on the calendar, Benjamin Netanyahu is speaking in D.C. before Congress on July 24th. The run-up to that, the aftermath of that, will be very interesting vis-a-vis not only Hamas and Gaza, but Lebanon and Hezbollah. But with Hamas, we're hearing rumblings again of a ceasefire. Folks, we've been hearing this for months, and Hamas rejects it out of hand every single time. But Netanyahu's been pretty clear, and other Israeli leaders have been pretty clear that July seems to be the month where Israel is going to wrap up major combat operations in Gaza. They feel that they feel they've sufficiently wounded Hamas. And the numbers here, let me look down here. I had it pulled up for you. Here's the latest. The IDF's chief of staff, Herzi Halevi, says at least 900 Hamas terrorists have been killed in this Rafah operation over the past few weeks. 900. So Israel believes they're getting to the end of it here. Although you've still got hostages, 115, I believe. We pray that most are alive, but Israel has said not all of them are alive. And you've still got Yahya Sinwar and other Hamas leaders alive in Gaza. So Israel expects to be there for a long while. But major combat operations apparently going to end soon. Look, there were 20 rockets launched out of Khan Yunis just yesterday. So what does that mean? Is Israel going to play a game of whack-a-mole? And are they going to have to keep going back into areas they already conquered? And that's a concern. We shall see. But this is unfolding now. And folks, all eyes, in terms of from people who know, their eyes are on the north and Hezbollah. Stay tuned, fasten your seatbelts, stay in prayer. Until tomorrow, thanks so much for joining us here on The Watchman. God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.